Sending money back home is expensive, slow, and time-consuming. Not anymore. Introducing Denari Cash. Denari Cash solves this in a simple way. Denari Cash don't send money across border. Yes, you heard it right. So, you want to know how do we send money internationally without sending across the border? Simple. You make a local payment to Denari Cash, and Denari Cash makes a local payment to your recipient. That's right, it's local in then local out. From any account to any cash pickup and major bank account. That's the reason why Denari Cash makes money transfers so much cheaper and faster. Available on any mobile, tablet, and computer. Denari Cash is trusted and loved by tens of thousands of people just like you. So what are you waiting for? Sign up now and start saving now with Denari Cash.
Hey, this is KJ and welcome to the latest episode of Finance Friday. This is a weekly program that talks about anything and everything about business and personal finance. By the way, we're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And this episode will also be available on my Pera and Purpose podcast on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Huge thanks to our viewers out there. So we already have like 11 million viewers. Thank you so much for your time that you're spending in tonight. Shout out to Matthew, to Heidi, to Kring, and to all the guys who's watching here tonight. And a big shout out to Denari Cash for supporting my advocacy on financial literacy. If you are new to my channel, please like, share, and subscribe to Purpose Driven Finance on Facebook, YouTube, and connect with me on LinkedIn. So, our topic for tonight is profit from your exit. And when should you really strategize on planning to do this, and when is the perfect time to go for an exit? Can we do it like Michael Jordan during his prime, and is it that easy to simply leave your business when you are already at its peak? So those are just some of the questions that I'll be asking our guest tonight, because my guest this evening is Michelle Seiler Tucker. She is the founder and CEO of Seiler Tucker Incorporated. She's a merger and acquisition master intermediary, certified senior business analyst, a certified mergers and acquisitions professional, a 20-year veteran in the mergers and acquisitions industry, and has sold over 1,000 businesses in almost every vertical and have a remarkable track record of success. She's been featured in INC, Forbes, Entrepreneurial Magazine, USA Magazine, Fox Business News, and CNBC. She's an international keynote speaker and the best-selling author of the book, Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth. And by the way, she has a new book called Exit Rich. So, without further ado, help me welcome our guest for tonight, Michelle Seiler Tucker. Woohoo! Hi there, Michelle.
Hi, how
Welcome
are
to
you?
my show. I'm doing
Thank you
good.
for having me. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I wish I was with you in person in Dubai. It's somewhere I've always wanted to visit. Never been.
Yeah, I really wish you can come over here and start promoting your 6 Ps, which I'm really excited to talk about, and also your book, Exit Rich. And I know it's morning there. You're in New Orleans, right? In the U.S.
I am. I'm in New Orleans, in the USA. Yep.
Yeah, I think this would be your first meeting. And by the way, a huge shout out to Sebastian for making this podcast interview possible. So I know you're a busy person, so let's get down to it. But before we start with the main gist of our topic, which is to profit from your exit, I just want to know, Michelle, how in the world did you end up in the M&A business?
Sure. And yes, a huge shout out to Sebastian. He's done a phenomenal job of booking us on podcasts, radio shows, and TV shows in which to promote Exit Rich. So how did I get into M&A? I didn't wake up one day and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to sell businesses," but I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, even from a young child. I would walk around with a notebook and ask everybody 1,000 questions, and I was always curious about what everybody does, and I was always curious about business, and I've always owned small businesses. At any given time, I own 5 to 10 different companies in many different verticals. I did go to work for Xerox. Xerox actually recruited me. So for a very short period of time, I was working for corporate America, but then I left Xerox and transitioned into franchise sales, franchise development, and franchise consulting. And then I very quickly, well, not very quickly, but after a few years selling franchises and doing franchise consulting, I transitioned into selling businesses and started selling small businesses like restaurants and pizzerias and coffee shops. But then very quickly, I transitioned into selling larger companies. And then I figured out that 8 out of 10 businesses don't sell in the United States. And according to Steve Forbes, who has also endorsed Exit Rich, 8 out of 10 businesses don't sell. So 80% of businesses will not sell. So I'm like, gosh, if I don't fix them and grow them, so that they're sellable, I'm going to starve to death. So I ended up transitioning to fixing and growing. So we really specialize in buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies. I buy businesses and flip them. I've also partnered with business owners, investing my time, energy, effort, expertise, and money in which to help business owners plan their business for an exit. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about business.
Yeah, and the first time I heard about M&A was when I was reading the book of Malcolm Gladwell, The Outliers. He mentioned there a name of Joe Flom. So I think he's the legendary guy in terms of mergers and acquisition. And as I remember, the first company I worked for in the Philippines was also acquired because I worked in the BPO for like 7 years. And after 2 years I left there, it was acquired by one of our competitors. So I was shocked. I mean, before, that company was not as big as the one that I was working for. But then eventually after 2 years, it was acquired. So probably that's one question that I want to ask as well. How does M&A actually work? Is it same as a takeover? Is it only for the big boys or also for the SMEs? How does it work?
Well, mergers and acquisitions is a pretty big umbrella. So, mergers and acquisitions, I mean, I'm a mergers and acquisitions master intermediary. And, it's not easy to get that title in the United States. You can't really test for it. You can't go to school for it. You have to really prove your worth by selling large businesses, $10 million and up. And so mergers and acquisitions is selling companies. It's merging companies. It's anything to do with buying and selling and merging businesses. And, I've done mergers, but most of what we do is helping clients buy businesses, sell businesses, like I said, fix them, grow them, build them to sell, and partner with them.
Okay, I see. So it's not when I hear about mergers and acquisition, it's something that's overwhelming for me. It's like a big task for big names. But during your younger years, were you always been has this entrepreneurial mindset? Has someone taught you to be into entrepreneurship?
I never really had any mentors at a young age. I know everybody thinks I did, but I didn't. I didn't really start having mentors till much older. But I didn't really grow up in an entrepreneur family. My father did own a business, and I used to go to work with him in his business from time to time. So he's owned a couple of businesses, but that was pretty much the extent of my entrepreneurship during childhood. But I always knew that I wanted to own my own business because number one, I don't like being told what to do. I never like being told what to do. It's like my biggest pet peeve. Don't tell me what to do. And so I always knew, and it's funny because clients tell me what to do, right?
Yeah.
But I always knew that I wanted to do my own thing and be my own boss and create my own masterpiece.
Yeah, nothing beats you owning your own time.
Right.
We don't want to report to somebody else, but definitely we also have our clients to please. But one thing please.
No, I was just going to say, going back to mergers and acquisitions, I think people like my industry has been around for decades, but so many business owners, even in America, don't really know what a business broker is or what an M&A advisor is and don't know what we do. So they assume, M&A is just mergers. Well, it's not. Anybody who wants to sell a business should contact an M&A advisor, especially if your business is $5 million and up, or a business broker if it's, below 5 million. And the big difference between business brokers and M&A advisors is business brokers sell smaller businesses like pizzerias, restaurants, coffee shops, and things of that nature. And then M&A typically specializes in middle market.
Yeah, and even in the Philippines, a lot of Filipinos are also like, I mean, when they start a business, it's not very common that they want to sell it because their business, they're too intact with their business, and oftentimes they sell at a loss. So that's the only time they think that selling a business is during the time that it's already losing profits. So
Right.
as we transition to our conversation, I just want to ask you, Michelle, why is it important for any business owner to properly, not just plan, but properly plan for an exit? And then other set of questions would be, when is the perfect time to plan for an exit? And when is the perfect time to go for an exit? So those are different questions all at the same time. Yeah.
Okay. You want me to start now?
Yeah.
So what was question number one again?
The question number one is why is it important for any business owner to properly plan for the exit? Because I think they just plan for the exit during the time that it's a little shaky in their company. Not many talk about exiting during the time that they're establishing their businesses. There's a very few entrepreneurs that I've spoken to about that.
Yeah, so that is true in America, and I guess what you're saying is that is true in the Philippines too.
Mhm.
Is that most business owners? So that's why 80 to 90% of businesses don't sell. It's because business owners don't plan for their exit. They don't think about selling until a catastrophic event has occurred. Internal, that could be health issues, that could be divorce, that could be death, that could be partner disputes, that could be all kinds of internal issues. And then external issues can be hurricanes, there can be COVID, the pandemic, and that's typically the worst time to sell your business, is because when you're trying to sell your business during a tragedy, during a catastrophic event, your business is probably not doing very well. It's probably trending downward. Like a lot of businesses want to sell right now that are dying because of COVID. Well, if they can hang on, they need to try to hang on, because otherwise they're just going to sell for pennies on the dollar. So you're not going to be able to maximize your value during a catastrophic event. That's why it's imperative to plan your exit from the beginning and really think about your loved ones. I had a sweet little old lady call us not that long ago that her husband had been in business for 35, 40 years, and he dropped dead of a heart attack, completely unexpected. And she called us about selling her business. Well, I started asking her some of the questions. How many employees does he have? Does he have processes? Does he have this? Does he have that? And he had a construction business, and he didn't have any employees. He had subcontractors, 1099s. He really didn't, all the data was in his head. Nothing was documented. There were no processes in place. So he really had nothing to sell. And he left her with a mountain of debt. That's not what you want to do. Your business is your most valuable asset. You need to set it up for success, a successful exit strategy. And you need to make sure that you take care of your loved ones. So that's so why, true. Yeah. So that's why it's so important to plan your exit from day one of starting or buying your business. Because here's the deal. Even if you don't think you're ever going to sell, because, what business owners really have to do is change their mindset. It's a mindset. And a lot of business owners go into business going, this is my baby. This is my passion. This is my love. This is my baby. They spend more time in their baby in their baby business than they do with their entire family, typically. So they're so emotionally connected, attached to their business. They think they're never ever going to sell it, and their business becomes their identity. Well, that's the wrong mindset. You need to set your business up as your most valuable asset, as something that produces the income, the profits to take care of your family, to set your family up for success, and so that you can really enjoy your life and not be married to your business, and set it up where it will be sellable when you're ready to sell. Because a lot of business owners are like, well, I'll never sell my business. Well, that's a terrible mindset, because things happen. What goes up must come down, and you're either growing or dying. And things happen in life, COVID happened, health issues happen. I just had a client, that was diagnosed with cancer. That happens, so you really need to build your business with the exit in mind, because number one, you'll have a much more profitable business if you do so. You have
True.
a sustainable business that's scalable and much more profitable if you build it
Mhm.
with the end in mind. So I always tell my clients to follow what we talk about in the book Exit Rich, which we call the STGPS exit model. And
Yeah,
that
but yeah, please
no, go
continue.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, because I've been thinking that, I mean, we are humans as well, and we are passionate about the things that we're doing, and that's why we build up businesses. And how do you tell your clients or business owners to not? I think the word that you want to say, the statement you want to say here is that to not never ever fall in love with your business. But how do you do? How do you prevent that from happening?
Yeah. So here's the deal. I mean, you can be passionate about your business, you can be in love with your business, but you still need to build that business so that business can operate without you. Because what if you
Uh-huh.
can't work anymore? What
I
if you
see.
get in a tragic accident?
Mhm.
What if you can't, go to your business every day and really create a business that works for you rather than a job that you go to work at every day?
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that's a strong statement because a lot of business owners think that they are business owners, but in the end, they're just the
They're
employee
they're
of their
employees.
business.
They're an employee of the job they
Yeah,
created. And so you really
exactly.
want to build a business that works for you. You really want to build a business that generates profits with or without you being there. You want to be able to
Uh-huh.
leave your business for 2 or 3 months and the business still runs without you, because that's the only way
Okay.
you're going to maximize value, and that's the only way you're going to maximize profits is if you
Okay.
can, and the other thing too is entrepreneurs are so used to wanting to do everything themselves because they're control freaks. And they think, oh,
Exactly.
if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. And that's the wrong mentality, because entrepreneurs are not good at everything. There's several things that most entrepreneurs are really bad at. So you need to focus on your strengths and hire your weaknesses. Focus on your strengths, hire your weaknesses. Most entrepreneurs' strengths are visionaries. They're visionaries. They know how
Mhm.
to build, they know how to grow, they know how to create, they know how to invent, but they're not necessarily know how to integrate. They don't necessarily know how to implement, every detail so things run smoothly. So
Yeah.
entrepreneurs should really focus, up here and big picture, and make sure that they have a good integrator that can integrate their vision.
Wow, such strong words, and I'm totally guilty with the words that you said because it's hard for me to delegate things because I think that I'm the only one who can do things the way I want it to be done. So
Yeah,
I
and,
think I
and
really have to. Yeah.
yeah. And well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, and like what you're saying, us entrepreneurs should be visionaries and should focus on building that vision. Now, but isn't it hard to sell during your prime
Is,
years or
did you say, isn't it hard to sell during your prime?
yeah? I mean, sorry, isn't it hard for a business owner to sell his business during its peak or its prime?
It might be hard for a business owner because they're so emotionally attached to their
Mm,
business to sell in their prime. But the best time to sell your company is in your prime. We have the
wow.
stages. I call it the life cycle of a business, which is
Uh-huh.
which is very similar to the life cycle of a human. We
Okay.
start in an incubator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Babies are in an incubator. Business babies are in an incubator. They start in an incubator. They go from the incubator to a newborn, right?
Yes.
So 90% of ideas never make it out of the incubator. So then they go from
Mm-hmm.
the incubator. I actually have a PowerPoint presentation on this, which I call the business life cycle. But they go from the incubator to the newborn. Newborn needs everything, right? They need 24-hour
Mm-hmm.
supervision, and they need a lot of money. And 24-hour supervision can never take your eye off of a newborn. Same thing with a newborn baby. You can
Mm-hmm.
never take your eye off of that newborn baby. Then it goes from a newborn to a toddler. Toddlers do what? They're terrible twos. They make a mess. They also need 24-hour supervision. They also need a
Uh-huh.
tremendous amount of money and a tremendous amount of control, right?
True.
Then they go
True.
from a toddler to a teenager. Well, a teenager can kind of sort of take care of themselves, but they don't know everything like they think they do. They're very rebellious, and they
Yeah.
still, what do they want to do? They want to take all your money. Same thing with the business. Teenage business is reckless, rebellious,
Mm-hmm.
and takes a lot of money. And then it goes to from teenager to young adult. And this is where, the business becomes a little bit more stable, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
need as much supervision, doesn't need as much investment as it did in the previous stages. But then it goes from young adult to adult. Now, adult is where you're in your prime. This is the best of the best. And I compare the life cycles to Toys R Us, because in Toys R Us, in their adult phase, they did $11.5 billion. They were huge. They were on top of the game. I mean, they were the biggest toy store in the world at $11.5 billion. So this is when you want to sell. You want to sell when you're in your prime, when you're an adult, because what goes up must come down. So after adult is what? Senior citizen.
Yeah, retirement.
Yeah, so that's in your human life, that's in your business life. So senior citizen. So within 1 year of Toys R Us being in its prime at $11.5 billion, 1 year later, they filed bankruptcy.
Yeah.
1 year later, and senior citizen. So now after the senior citizen phase, what's next? Unfortunately,
Retirement?
dying. Death. That's next. So 2 years later, Toys R Us dies. Toys R Us closes, all of their stores. Toys R Us completely goes under. It's actually the second, in 2016, I think it was the second time Toys R Us had filed bankruptcy. They have been in business 75 years. So Toys R Us dies. Now, what happens after death?
You go to a safer place. To heaven.
So, reincarnation, if you believe in that.
Reincarnation,
But rebirth of a business. So Toys R Us is trying to come back. They're trying to rebirth their brand. They open up 4 more locations. But now they're starting to innovate instead of doing, because here's a problem with Toys R Us. Here's a problem with most business owners. 75 years, they did nothing different. In 75 years, they did the same old. They never innovated. They never changed anything. So they come back with smaller boutique stores, not the large grocery store type model. But recently, Toys R Us just closed all I think they opened up 4 and they just closed all 4 again.
So rebirth is
enough. Yeah. And that's the business life cycle.
And you just went through a quick class of a business of how a life cycle of a business should be, and it's the first time that I've actually heard about the entire business cycle of a business. It's just like being a human being as well. Now,
it is. That's why I compare the two. It's just like being a human being. But the best, and the reason I brought up the business life cycle is because that's the best time to sell is when you're in your prime. Most business owners don't want to sell them because they're in love with their business and they want to stay married to their business. And then the business tends to go down because they stop doing what I call AIM. AIM is always innovate and market. Always innovate and market. And like Toys R Us did nothing new in 75 years. And then they wonder why they went out of business.
AIM. Yeah. So it's one abbreviation that we all have to remember. Always innovate and what's
and market. Always
okay.
AIM.
AIM. All right. I'll write that down later. Now, I'm really excited to talk about the 6 P's of your book. But before we do that, let's just have a quick break, Michelle. And once we're back, we'll definitely run straight through your 6 P's. Really excited for that.
Sending money back home is expensive, slow, and time-consuming. Not anymore. Introducing Denari Cash. Denari Cash solves this in a simple way. Denari Cash don't send money across border. Yes, you heard it right. So, you want to know how do we send money internationally without sending across the border? Simple. You make a local payment to Denari Cash, and Denari Cash makes a local payment to your recipient. That's right, it's local in then local out. From any account to any cash pickup and major bank account. That's the reason why Denari Cash makes money transfers so much cheaper and faster. Available on any mobile, tablet, and computer. Denari Cash is trusted and loved by tens of thousands of people just like you. So what are you waiting for? Sign up now and start saving now with Denari Cash.
And we're back. I'm still with Michelle Seiler Tucker, founder and CEO of Seiler Tucker Incorporated, and we are talking about how you can profit from your exit. Now, let's talk about the 6 Ps. But before that, by the way, I just want to post our quote for today, which is somewhat related to our episode, which is a quote by Paulo Coelho, which he said that one never knows what life may have in store for us, and it's always good to know where the emergency exit is. What a very timely quote. We really need to have, or we need to know where the emergency exit is of our business. So, by the way, we have some comments here from our viewers, and I think my cousin from the Philippines mentioned here that he totally agrees. That's the mindset of most Filipino business owners. Once the business is born, they will keep it until their death, and they expect the next generation of the family to continue the business, which shouldn't be the case. That's what we have learned from Michelle, that you should sell during your business's peak or your prime, when you are highly sellable. So
Yeah, because
also,
what if your kids don't want your business?
true, and that really happens to a lot of us. So build your business with a goal of being able to run without you. Yes, and Jeanette said entrepreneurs should focus on their strengths and hire their weaknesses. Yeah, great insights. And Sebastian is here as well. Sebastian, thank you again for setting this interview up. So, what exactly are the 6 Ps, Michelle? Let's start from the first one.
All right. So the 6 Ps. So number one, remember, you want to build your exit, from day one at beginning or start beginning or buying your business. And then you want to build your infrastructure. So the infrastructure is what I call the 6 Ps. This is how we, determine if a business is ready for sale, determine if, what areas of the business that the business owner needs to focus on and tweak. It's also the areas of the business that we really pay close attention to and put a value of the business on. So most, advisors will evaluate a business just based upon market comps, industry comps, cash flow. We look at what we call the 6 Ps. So number one, well, they're all important. All the Ps are my babies. So one of the most important Ps is people. You don't build a business, you build people, and people build the business. And the problem, like we said earlier, with a lot of entrepreneurs is that the business is tied to them. And once you remove that owner, there is no longer a business in place. So you need to make sure that you have the right people in the right seats. And you need to ask the who question. Who opens the doors? Who handles customer service? Who handles manufacturing? Who handles transportation, logistics? Who handles environmental? Who handles legal? Who? And the key here is you should never be next to the who. So, because you really want the business to run without you. We have a dental practice that came to us that wants us to sell their business. They've been in business for 45 years, 1 dentist and 3 dental hygienists. And he wants to retire. So once that dentist retires, there is no business because the patients are going to leave. So you want to make sure that you build a business, not a job, because buyers want to buy good businesses, not a job. If they wanted to buy a job, they go to work for somebody. So people is the most important. You also want to make sure that if you're trying to sell a business, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, whatever your number is, you want to make sure that you have a layer of management in place. Okay. Because again, you should be the visionary coming up with all the genius ideas, and then you should have an integrator that can facilitate everything. The next P, which is very important in business, and you really can't operate without this, is product. So product is your product, your industry, your service. So you're going to ask yourself, is your product, your industry, is it thriving or is it dying? Is it on the way up or is it on the way out? Do you have an Amazon or do you have a Blockbuster? And if you have a Blockbuster, you need to pivot. And that's the problem with a lot of industries right now, because we're in the middle of a pandemic. So restaurants, hospitality, so many different industries are struggling right now. And this is not the time to panic. This is not the time to be paralyzed with fear. This is really the time to read Exit Rich, align yourself with a mentor, an expert, someone who's been down the road you want to travel, and have them help you. Because I always say, And when you're in the middle of your crisis and you're in the middle of the fog, it's foggy. So you need an outsider's perspective, to help you see the warning signs and help you pivot.
Mhm.
And, I always tell my clients to ask themselves 3 transformational questions. And this is extremely important. And this is why in America, it used to be, and I don't know about the Philippines, but it used to be in America that 95% of all startups would go out of business. And that's when I wrote my first book in 2013 called Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth. When I wrote Exit Rich in 2019, 2020, I did the same research and realized that only 30% of startups will go out of business now. Only 30%. The business landscape in the USA has completely shifted. It's completely flip-flopped. So now only 30% of those startups will go out of business. Out of 27.6 million companies, those businesses that have been in business for 70 years or longer, those businesses will go out of business. 70%. So that's really, really scary. And the number one reason for that is because business owners stopped doing what I call AIM. They stopped innovating and they stopped marketing. So ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, Amazon did this back in the 90s. So I'll use the Amazon example. Amazon asked themselves, what business are we in? And they said, oh, we're in a book selling business. We sell books. Then they asked themselves, what do we do really, really, really well, better than anyone? And they said, we do fulfillment better than anyone. And then they asked themselves, and this is the most important question, so I need everybody to listen. Then they asked themselves, what business should we be in? And that's what every business owner should be asking himself. What business should we be in? Those 3 questions right there transformed Amazon, because Amazon said we should be in a fulfillment business. We do fulfillment better than anybody. Why are we just selling books? Let's fulfill everything. And so those 3 questions, transformational questions, is what transformed Amazon from a small bookseller to a multi-billion-dollar worldwide conglomerate that they are today. And you can do this too. Anyone listening to this program can do the same thing. Ask yourself, what business are you in? What do you do really, really, really well? And what business should you be in? And pivot. You don't have to stay stuck. Okay.
True.
You can ask, you need to get, so many business owners are stuck because they're transactional. No real change comes from transactional. Real change, real progress comes from transitional. Does that make sense?
Yeah, those are 3 transformative questions that I also have to ask for myself.
Yes, you do. So that's product. The 3rd P is processes, and processes are crucial to really running your business and maintaining or decreasing overhead so that you can stay profitable. So processes are huge, but most business owners don't think about processes until they have to, because something bad in their business occurred. Like, let's say somebody got hurt in a warehouse. Well, now we need a health and safety process for that. Or let's say, someone complained about your service and went on the internet and said that you're the worst company ever to do business with. Well, now you need a customer service process. So here's the bottom line. Processes should be started from the beginning. Processes should be designed with the customer experience in mind. Very important. Have you ever watched the movie The Founder?
Yeah, I love that movie.
That's a great movie, right? Like, that's the best movie.
Ray
so
Kroc.
all of your listeners, well, Ray Kroc and the McDonald brothers.
Yeah, and the McDonald brothers, yeah.
Right. So everybody should go watch The Founder. So let me explain processes. So in the 40s, when the McDonald brothers, not Ray Kroc, when the McDonald brothers started McDonald's back in the 40s, the McDonald's wanted to start a fast food restaurant because they saw a problem, they saw a need. Back then they had the drive-up type, Sonic type restaurants, but the service was always slow, the food was always cold, the order was always wrong, and it took too long. And so McDonald's said, we're going to build a fast food restaurant with a customer experience in mind. We want our customers to experience great tasting food that's hot and fast, 2 minutes or less. And I said, well, how do we develop that? How do we develop the processes in which to create this experience? So they went out to the empty tennis courts. Do you remember that? They took all their employees to the empty tennis court, and they drew
something
on the
ground.
Right. They drew on a tennis court, and they practiced and erased everything and drew it again and practiced and practiced and practiced all day until they figured out who takes the order, who toasts the buns, who grills the burger, who puts the pickles on the bun and gives it to the client 2 minutes or less. Now, those processes that were designed with the customer experience in mind. So no matter what McDonald's you eat at, rather you eat at a McDonald's in Dubai, Australia, USA, the experience is the same. So you need consistent processes with the experience in mind. Think about the opposite effect. Have you ever dealt with a bank or social media company? I'll try not to name names. Or it's just the opposite. And the process is not designed with the customer experience in mind to be a wow experience. It's designed to infuriate you. It's designed to make you really angry at the way that they handle customer service. Have you ever had a negative experience?
Yeah, I did.
All the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where companies are messing up royally. That's where they're getting it wrong. You know, they want to design efficient, productive processes. That's great. Do that. But make sure it's designed to create happy customer experiences. Wow, customer experiences. You want to wow your clients. If you don't, somebody else will.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very important. So always design your processes with the customer experience in mind to create happy clients. And then make sure they're productive, efficient, and well trained on. You need to make sure your employees are trained on such. You need to have the McDonald's approach or the Burger King approach, where no matter what employee comes into what position or what seat, there's the SOP checklist. They know exactly what to do. And with very minimal training, they can take over that position. So very important. When a buyer comes to buy a business, one of the first things I always ask for is the operations manual.
Okay, so the process really plays a very important role in terms of and also how easy it is to replicate the process, because people definitely will need to easily understand how the process works.
Yes, because if you have good, tight processes or that employees are trained on, then that will decrease overhead, right?
Yeah.
It will decrease overhead, cut waste, and help your company be much more efficient and, most importantly, more profitable. Okay. So most processes in companies are actually broken. Most of them are broken. All right. So then the fourth P, which is the highest value driver. So in the United States, businesses are typically evaluated of a multiple of EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So in the United States, if a business is under $1 million in EBITDA, then the multiple is probably anywhere from 1.5 to 3, maybe 4, depending upon do they operate on all 6 Ps and what industry are they in, etc. But to get over that 5 multiple, you need to have an EBITDA of over $1 million, because the higher the EBITDA, the higher the multiple. And you need to have proprietary. You need to have synergies. Buyers pay for synergies. Buyers buy synergies that will catapult their business to the next level. So there's 6 pillars to proprietary. Number 1 is branding. The more well branded you are, the more you can sell your company for. As long as the brand is relevant in the mind of the consumer. Is anybody going to pay any money for Blockbuster?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. People will pay money for Toys R Us brand and some of these other brands. There are buyers that are trying to get their hands on some of these big name brands like Toys R Us, because Pier 1, Steinmart, because they know with the right innovation and the right marketing, these brands can be big again. These brands can be successful again. So branding is huge. Trademarks is another value driver, especially in the United States. So trademarking your company name, trademark your podcast, trademark your books, trademark your slogans. In the United States, a lot of business owners make the mistake of getting a state trademark. So let's say they open up a business in California, they get a state trademark for California, but then they never check the federal database to make sure that name is available. So they could be in business for years and all of a sudden receive a cease and desist letter and they have to stop doing business as that company name. Now, yes, you can hire attorneys. Yes, you can throw a lot of money at it, but you're probably going to lose. So you want to make sure you protect your IP, your intellectual property. And then patents are big. Patents will also get you a much higher multiple. I don't know if you ever watch Shark Tank. Do you guys watch Shark Tank in Dubai?
There's,
and what's the questions they always ask? Yeah, what's the questions they always ask?
Do you have a patent?
Do you have a patent on this? Do you have a patent on this? Do you have a patent pending? Do you have a utility patent?
True.
So get a patent. You protect your proprietary inventions and get a patent. I mean, we sold a business for $18 million. It wasn't making that much money, but they had 18 patents. So that's like $1 million a patent. The other thing that's really valuable in proprietary are contracts, manufacturing contracts, distributor contracts, vendor contracts. Any type of exclusive contract is very valuable. Franchisor, let's say you have a franchisor and you have 1,000 franchisees. That's extremely valuable. Client contracts are the most valuable of all, but in the USA, 99.9% of all sales are asset sales. And I will tell you, probably 100% of business owners forget the transferability clause in a contract. So you want to make sure yes, the transferability clause, which states this agreement is transferable to a new entity. So you want to make sure you have that transferability clause, because if you don't in the USA, I'm not sure about the Philippines, then we have to go to the clients and try to get the clients to sign a transition agreement, and transfer that agreement over. So you want to make sure these are all the little caveats that business owners don't know. And it's not what you know that gets you in trouble. It's what you don't know.
True. Yeah.
And then databases are big. Databases are really huge. If you have a large database and your clients can be repurposed and retargeted, strategics are very interested in buying databases. Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp, and WhatsApp was hemorrhaging money. But WhatsApp had a synergy. They had a synergy that Facebook knew they could monetize an ROI and get a return on their investment. And that synergy was that WhatsApp had 1 billion users. So they're willing to pay $19 billion for 1 billion users for the database. Yeah. True. So the other big thing too that your listeners need to know is what I call IP real estate, intellectual property real estate. So let's say that you've developed a weight loss program, and Oprah Winfrey has endorsed your product and it's on her favorite things, and she's now using your weight loss system. That's huge. A strategic who has maybe a supplement company would love to purchase your weight loss company because they want to get their products in front of Oprah.
Yeah, true. The Oprah effect.
Exactly, the Oprah effect. And then also, let's say that you manufacture, dining room sets, and you're number one on Wayfair. That's huge strategic placement that most companies have struggled to get that type of placement. So another furniture business, which would be strategic, would want that position on Wayfair. Let's say you're manufacturing masks. We all have to wear these masks now because of the pandemic, and your masks are number one on Etsy. This is prime real estate that strategics and competitors will pay top dollar for. And when we value businesses, this is the things that we look for. We look for these synergies that will help create a bidding war that buyers will pay top dollar for. Make sense?
Yeah. I'm learning right now a lot.
And then the fifth P is patrons. So that's your customer data. That's your customer base. And in America, most businesses follow the 80-20 rule, where 80% of their business comes from 20% of their clients.
True.
Well, the issue with that is if you lose a couple of clients, you could literally be out of business. We once were working with a marketing media company that we were selling them for $10 million. They have 5 clients, only 5 clients, because they cater to casinos. So they have 5 of the biggest casinos. But the problem is they lost 2 casinos during the valuation process.
That's a huge loss for them.
Yeah, so that's a big problem. Now, so customer concentration, you want to make sure you have customer diversification. And then the last P, which is very important to all of us entrepreneurs and all of your listeners, is profit. Everybody wants to make profit.
There you go.
We're not in business to not make money, but so many business owners don't make money. And I always say that profits is never the problem. It's always a symptom of not running on one of the other 5 Ps. Like I have clients that come in and say, Michelle, I have a profit problem. I'm like, no, you have a people problem. You don't have the right people in the right place. Or you have a process issue. Your process is inefficient and it's costing you a tremendous amount of money. Or you have a proprietary issue. You haven't protected your IP. So profits are never the problem. They're always a symptom.
Mm-hmm. And most of the business owners just think about the think about the profits. They would seek for guidance and ask for advice, saying that, hey, I have my profit is negative for this year, but they don't really think about the deeper reason why the profit is really low. And it's a good thing that you mentioned that low profits is just a symptom of not following the other piece of the 6
I can
Ps.
promise you, if you run your business on all 5 Ps and get all 5 of them in line and functioning, then you will not have a profit problem. You will have increased profits. You know, there's so many things that cause lack of profits. And because people always ask me, well, Michelle, what's the 10 profit mistakes that business owners make? Well, I can name all 10. I can probably name 1,000. But they all tie into those 5 Ps.
Okay. And that's so true. And I think there's one P that I want to add to your 6 Ps, which is pandemic proof.
That's your 7 P. Because I have 6 Ps.
The 7 P.
Well, so your 7 P is pandemic. And in the pandemic, you need to pivot, which is the 8 P, pivot. And then during this pandemic, you need to have the 9th P, which is passion. You still have to have the passion.
Oh. True. So it has to, the book has to be revised.
We could keep this going on forever.
Yeah, a lot of P's throwing out today. Now, I just want to talking about the 7th P that we mentioned, the pandemic. Does it mean that those businesses who failed during this pandemic missed out to plan for their exit during this crisis? Or is this pandemic way too big for every business owner to handle?
So here's the bottom line. It depends. There are industries that were dying before the pandemic that are now thriving and having their best year ever. Some of those industries are remodeling, home remodeling, landscape, pool companies, anything that has to do with the home. Those industries are thriving because more people are staying at home more than ever before. So they're not traveling. They're not going out to eat as much. They're not, taking these trips. They're not doing all the things that they used to do because they're staying at home. And they're like, if I'm going to stay at home, I want a swimming pool. If I'm going to stay at home, I need an extra room to get away, so I can work from home and get away from my family, during work time. So anything related to home right now is thriving. Agriculture is doing really, really well. Toilet paper is doing great.
Everybody started panicking about the toilet papers.
So there's a lot of industries that are doing great. But the industries that are struggling, like, healthcare, not healthcare. Healthcare is doing really well. Yeah. Hospitality is what I meant to say. Hospitality, the travel industry, restaurant industry, even the gyms, movie theaters, the places that we all go, those places industries are struggling right now. That doesn't mean that you're out of business. But some of these owners can hold on, but many cannot. 10,000 restaurants in America are closing down. Now, 10,000, you might seem like a big number. I guarantee you there's going to be probably hundreds of thousands closed down, unfortunately, because business owners, they don't plan for a catastrophic event like this. They don't have, they have one revenue stream, which is their one business, and they don't have a lot in savings. So they don't really have a lot of working capital to weather this catastrophic storm that has occurred. So those businesses are struggling, are going to have to sell for pennies on the dollar, close their business, and unfortunately, many of them in the USA are filing for bankruptcy. So as a business owner, you want to make sure. The one thing that I do is I have multiple companies, and my companies are diversified in different industries, or also in different states. So in Louisiana back in 2005, we had Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina wiped out 95% of my businesses that I was selling. So back in 2005, I said, I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to make sure I have businesses in other states. So as an entrepreneur, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Yes, you want to be focused. If you are involved in business, you've never done real estate before, you really probably shouldn't go start real estate unless you have a really good mentor. Same thing. If you've always done real estate, you've never done business, you've never owned a restaurant before. You don't want to own a restaurant unless you have good people, that are going to run that restaurant for you. So when I say diversify, I'm saying diversify in your core competency. So if your core competency is real estate, have real estate in different states, have different types of real estate, have just same thing. If your core competency is business, have multiple businesses in different locations and different industries.
I see. And it's a good thing that you mentioned about diversifying, because one thing that I'm also curious about is that how can business owners sell a company if the company is under their name, just like yours? It's under Seiler Tucker. So isn't it hard, like what you mentioned a while ago? People is very important. Now, if you're going to sell a company under your name, then how hard would that be? Yeah.
So, that's a really good point. And, I gave that a lot of thought before I named my company Seiler Tucker. Because before that, I had another company name, and I did a rebranding back in 2016. I changed my company name to Seiler Tucker mainly because of trademark issues. And so, but the reason I picked Seiler Tucker, is because I knew I wouldn't have any trademark issues with my name. And it sounds like an advisory firm or a law firm. And so let me explain it. So Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins. Yeah. Tony Robbins is Tony Robbins, and he would have a very difficult time selling his business because the entire brand is based on Tony Robbins. You take Tony Robbins off the stage or out of the business, nobody really wants to go, right? Because everything is Tony Robbins. Now, he does have other speakers. He has Juan and Jay Abraham and some other speakers. But Tony Robbins did an ESOP. He sold to his employees. And Tony Robbins also has other businesses that are not named under Tony Robbins. So he's diversified. So that's a very difficult business to sell to anyone outside of your employees. Peak Potentials. T. Harv Eker wrote the book, Millionaire Mindset, right?
Yeah.
Now, me too. He did a great job of branding himself, but he also really branded Peak Potentials. And Peak Potentials did sell to an outside investor. So if you're going to brand yourself, you brand yourself. I always tell business owners, you need to do two types of branding. You got to brand you and you got to brand your company. You got to brand you and you got to brand your company. Steve Jobs did a very good job of that. Steve Jobs is always branding Apple, but he also branded himself, right? Yeah. You always knew what Steve Jobs was going to look like. You always knew how he was going to be dressed. So Steve Jobs had his own brand. Apple had their brand, and he branded both. Yes, you can sell your business with your name as long as your business has people. As long as your business is, in a thriving industry, not a dying industry, as long as your business has those processes and systems in place that can run without you, and as long as you've branded your business more so than just yourself, So when people get in trouble is, let's say it's a plumber, and a plumber's name is Joe Smith Plumbing, and Joe Smith doesn't have any other plumbers, right? Yeah. Well, Joe Smith is in a crack. Joe Smith is in a crack because Joe Smith won't have a business to sell. So, so you can name your company after your name. Like I didn't do my first name. If I did Michelle Seiler Tucker or Michelle Tucker or Michelle Seiler, it'd be very difficult. Seiler Tucker, they think, oh, there's partners. I have a gentleman that works for me. His last name happens to be Tucker, and we are not related at all.
I see.
So I'll probably sell to him.
A lot of Tuckers in the U.S.
Yeah. So does that answer your question about personal brand and business brand?
Yeah. Actually, a great answer to the question, because I've been bothered about that. If I put up a business under my name, or should I put a company name? Because I'm into the financial planning consulting as well. But I want to most consultants or financial planners brand their business under their name. Now, like what you said, it's really hard to exit if I'm the only person who's there.
Yeah. If you're the only person that's there, it's going to be very difficult to exit, especially if it's your company name. Let's say Seiler Tucker has 20 offices and I want to exit. No problem. We got 20 offices. The business is built on Seiler Tucker, the brand of the company, not so much on Michelle Seiler Tucker. I can't hear you. We got cut off. I don't know what happened. Huh? We're still live.
All right, I'm still here. Can you hear me, Michelle?
Yes.
Yes. Just just one more question, because I've been dying to ask this question to you. And we've been talking about, we talked about the founder a while ago, and we know that McDonald's was sold for only 2.6 million in 1961. And this controversial handshake deal happened. So how can we business owners prevent that from happening?
Oh, you're talking about the McDonald's story to Ray Kroc?
Yeah, that one legendary or whatever incident that was.
Yeah. So yes. So Ray Kroc, I tell you, he was brilliant. I tell you, he was brilliant, but probably not. He probably didn't have the best ethics.
Yeah.
So what Ray Kroc did that gave him the competitive edge is, if you remember in the movie, when Ray Kroc was in the bank trying to borrow more money because he was upside down, because the franchisees were not compliant and they were not paying their royalties. He was in the bank trying to borrow more money. And he had already taken a loan out against his house. And the problem is, Ray had all these brilliant ideas, but the McDonald's brothers wanted to control everything, just like a lot of entrepreneurs. They want to control everything. McDonald's brothers wanted to control everything. They didn't want to listen to Ray's ideas that would decrease working capital. Decrease overhead and increase profits, like, for instance, the milkshakes. So he was in the bank and trying to borrow more money, and the bank, the banker said, well, you're already over leveraged. We can't lend you more money. What assets do you have? And he didn't have any more assets to borrow against. So if you remember correctly, when he left the bank that day, what did the bank, that a gentleman followed him outside of the bank, and he asked him, he says, I'm sorry, I just overheard. But he goes, what business are you in? Here we go back to these three questions. What business are you in? And Ray Kroc says, I'm in the restaurant business. And he said, no, what business are you in? And Ray said, I'm in the restaurant business. And he goes, well, what business should you be in? And Ray Kroc goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. and the young man said, you need to be in the real estate business. You need to buy up all the real estate in a separate corporation that you own, McDonald's Real Estate Holding Company. You buy up all the real estate. You build the restaurant. You lease it to the franchisee. If the franchisee is not compliant, the franchisees are not paying their royalties, then you void their contract and you get a new franchisee in there. Because Ray Kroc listened to that gentleman and those three transformational questions, he ended up buying up all the real estate, leasing it back to the franchisees.
Franchisees.
And so that he had such a huge conglomerate now that the McDonald brothers had zero leverage over him anymore because he had all the franchisees. So if the McDonald brothers would not play ball, then he could just evict all those franchisees and start over with something else, right?
Yeah.
That's why real estate, that's why McDonald's is now has been the largest real estate holding company in the world because of those three questions. But how do business owners prevent that from happening to them is your question.
Yeah.
So they had a franchise agreement with Ray Kroc. They did. Remember that? They had a franchise. They had a contract with Ray Kroc. They had an area developer, a franchisor area developer contract with him. Where Ray Kroc, was able to get over on them is by buying up all the real estate. So as business owners, you want to make sure that you're documenting everything. You want to make sure that you have all your agreements in place. You want to make sure all that's happening. McDonald's didn't do anything to stop Ray Kroc from buying up the real estate. And that's how he was able to steal the company from them, basically, so to speak.
Because that deal was supposed to give them like 0.5% royalty on all of future McDonald's proceeds. It's like $100 million a year based on the son of the owner.
And so they also didn't have good processes in place, the McDonald brothers, because you need to have the agreements in place. You need to make sure you have the right agreements, but you have to have the right process in place. So a process that should have been in place was a accounting system that would oversee all the franchisee locations underneath Ray, and that they would do electronic fund transfers out of Ray's bank account into their bank account to make sure that they got their royalties.
So your 6 Ps actually play an important role. If the McDonald's brothers knew about your 6 Ps, then it wouldn't have happened, right?
Yeah. And then the McDonald brothers, for your typical business owner, where they were in love with their baby and they wanted to control everything. Ray Kroc was a visionary. Ray Kroc saw the big picture. Ray Kroc knew that McDonald's could be the biggest, fast food restaurant in the world. And so he focused on the vision versus focusing on controlling everything.
Exactly. Now there's so much more to learn.
He gained the real estate. He gained the real estate in order to give him the leverage to own everything else. And here's the thing, what business is McDonald's in? McDonald's is not in the hamburger business. They're in the real estate business. That goes back to my 3 transformational questions.
And that's so true. A lot of things can be recognized if you ask those transformative questions. Now, there's a lot. I'm sure we can talk about this for the entire day, entire week, entire year. But tell us more about your book. I know we're also excited to buy this. And tell us more about Exit Rich. Where can we buy it? And also, where can we reach you on social media or online, anywhere in this world?
So here's my book, Exit Rich. We're in the middle. And if you didn't see it behind me, here it is here.
There it is.
We're in the middle of pre-launch right now. So I encourage everyone to go to exitrichbook.com. Go to exitrichbook.com. You can buy the book for less expensive than Amazon. So $24.79. And we will email you the digital version immediately. So if you buy the book within seconds, you will have the digital version. We will also give you a lifetime membership into the Exit Rich Book Club. The Exit Rich Book Club has a video training of me talking about transformational questions, talking about things you should be doing in your business, how you should pivot, etc. Plus, most importantly, it has documents on how to run your business, organizational charts, employee handbooks, non-competes. Also, if you're looking at selling your business, we have sample letters of intent, sample LOIs. We have sample purchase agreements, sample due diligence checklist, sample closing documents. And these documents alone are worth over $25,000 if you went to your attorney to try to reproduce. And they're not there just for your review, but also for your download. Plus, if you buy Exit Rich now, you also get a 30-day membership into Club CEOs. Club CEOs is a mastermind that I founded where we do Q&As, we do hot seats. We really ask, those questions to help you not just survive this pandemic, but really come on the other side, thrive, so you too can exit rich when you're ready.
Yeah, and the mentorship network are important.
That's a lot of value
factors.
for $24.79.
For $24. And the letter that you mentioned, those are actually important. It will save your ass in the future.
Yes, yes. This is really, and these are. It's not just a simple sample closing doc either. It's probably 150 pages. I think it was I forget which business it was that we redacted, but these are real closing docs. These are real due diligence checklists. These are real sample PAs, real LOIs. So you should go do that. And then anyone who wants to text Exit Rich, I can text Exit Rich to 888-526-5750. And when you text to 888-526-5750, you will get all my social media. I encourage everybody to follow me on social media. I love to see your comments and connect with me. And then also my websites are there.
Okay. Well, a lot of gems that you mentioned, and the Exit Rich is definitely one of the key manuals that every business owner should read in terms of building and exiting from their business. Again, guys, exiting is done, should be planned since day one, and we should sell at least our business during its prime, or follow the 6 Ps. I mean, I cannot state how important it is, but just buy the book Exit Rich, and let's all exit rich.
Yes, I don't want anyone exiting poor. I want everybody to exit rich.
That's right. So, guys, that wraps our episode for tonight. And I hope you gained so much knowledge on how you can exit rich. And I hope you were inspired by Michelle's story. So, if you guys missed this entire live episode, you can listen to this on my Pera and Purpose podcast through Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcast. And do not forget to follow Purpose Driven Finance on Facebook, IG, and LinkedIn. Once again, Michelle, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and again, this is your host, QJ, telling you to prosper with a purpose. See you next week. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.